Hey there, friends, come join the show. We're digging in the earth where good things grow. From tiny seeds to the food we share, love and sunshine fill the air. Plant what you eat what you grow. Learn as you grow, let the rhythm flow. Grow every day, in every way. This is how we garden for a brighter day. Yeah. Grab your gloves and a trowel in hand. We'll turn this patch to a promised land. Tomatoes climbing, peppers in line. Patience and water make everything fine. Eat what you grow. Learn as you grow. Let the rhythm flow. Hearts grow every day in every way. This is how we got it for a brighter day. Ooh, compost turning the soils alive. Buzzing bees keep the blooms in drive. Every sprout's a story told of healing hearts and hands of gold. From garden beds to kitchen plates, nature's time never waits. Share your harvest, share your song. Together we'll keep growing strong. Start small, what you grow. Hearts learn as you grow. Let the rhythm flow. Hearts grow every day in every way. This is how we got it for a brighter day. Start small, what you grow. Hearts learn as you grow. Let the rhythm flow. Hearts grow every day in every way. This is how we got it for a brighter day. This is how we garden for a brighter day.
Garden planners are everywhere right now. Beautiful layouts, stickers, fancy pages. A planner doesn't grow the food though, okay? Your observations do. Today we are talking about what you actually need to track in your garden. How to do it. We're going to talk about beginner, mid, and advanced. You know, if we want to do this for free, if we want to do this luxury, we're going to go over all of that. I don't want to overcomplicate anything for anybody. So Team Replay, I see you there. Thank you for watching. Do you currently journal or have a planner, any kind of that stuff with your garden? Yes, no, maybe you've tried. Maybe you've bought them and you've never opened or wrote in them. Be honest. And if you have a rhythm with your journaling, I want to know, do you journal before or after you garden? And this might look different depending on what part of the season you're in. Right? So when you are with us live, we are able to say hello to each other in real time. And I want to have as many conversations as I can in the replay as well. So I'm going to greet everybody quickly and then get into the basics of what we need to cover when we want to do the bare minimum with journaling and planning out the garden on paper. So we have Ecology Today with Jay Dixon, Robin Gardens. Hello there. Bowtie is here. Bowtie Life. We have DCBs. Good to see you. I'm glad you made it. I know we're having a lot of chit chat, so I'm trying to get to when someone new comes in. I know I saw Dusty Flats. Good evening. South Florida Sunshine Tropicals made it. Miss Sharon is here, reminding everyone in the chat, hit the live chat button, otherwise you might miss somebody. Gigi's Garden. Good late evening. Who else? Oh, Eddie. Hello, Eddie Lyles. Thanks for listening in for our show. Brooke Trout made it. Hey, Brooke Trout. I'm going to try and catch comments about journaling. So Robin Garden says, I only journal what I plant, how, and when. It works for me. Love that. Serena Norell, welcome in. Not a physical journal, more of a mental journal. I remember where I planted stuff and which beds I rotated from the past 2 to 3 years and which ones I used next for various things. I know DCB said he kind of wings it, and I said, oh, are you just really more in tune with nature? I was giving Bowtie some grief in the chat about spreadsheets. The live chat replay is available at some point. So if you are in the replay, wait till it's loaded and you can read everybody's stuff. Thank you, Brooke Trout. I see your note. That's super exciting. Adam has made it and paused a movie to be here with everybody. I appreciate that. Let's try and cover as much as we can. I'm going to catch you guys as the best I can when your comments are related to what we're talking about. So if you wanted to start gardening and you wanted to start planning or journaling, what are the things that you should write down, right? The basics, okay? We talk about light. Is this part, this garden, this section, full sun? Is it part sun? Is it a shade? You know, does it get 8+ hours of sun, 6 hours of sun, 4 hours of sun? Is the sun in the morning or is it in the afternoon? That is something you can write down. Temperature. So not frost dates from Google, okay? Your actual experience. Did it happen later than the last year? Was there no more frost, and it was just the heat spiked up, right? Maybe a cold snap came in. Writing down those dates. Plants. What did you plant? When did you plant it? You can put how many. Again, this is just the basics. There's a lot of layers to these that we can add as we advance up this conversation. We are going to try and show as many visuals as possible. And of course, as always, there are links in the description for you to do a little homework. And I am going to show what I have next to me here on the way I've been doing it. Whether it's perfect or not, it's what I have done. And I am looking to improve on it this season. You can comment on the weather, of course. That is a big conversation with gardeners. What is the weather doing? So was it too wet? Was it too dry? Did you have a storm on a specific day? Was there damage to the garden? These are the bare minimum things to document. And so when we're talking about the basics, we're going to talk about cost options here. Your first garden journal should cost you nothing. It can be scrap paper you have laying around. Some kind of notebook. Now it could be from the dollar store. It could be from anywhere, but you get the best price for the style you want. All notebooks are different. It seems like these days. There's your cell phone, or maybe you have some kind of tablet-y device or a computer that has some kind of notes app. Taking photos is free for you. Having a calendar. You have your seed packets, right? That has information. You could write the date on it and keep the seed packet in some kind of binder or folder or envelope. The best journal is the one that you actually use, right? So I am going to be showing now what I've been doing, and I'm going to have the comments open over here to see as things come in. I'm just checking. People are talking about frost dates. So, you know how you can go to the bank or the hardware store and you can get a calendar for free, sometimes the doctor's office. So this one, I'm going to try and get it to show. See how there's writing in it? So this is, you can see from 2023. This was March. March, things start happening here. So I write down, what can I start indoors, right? And what can I winter sow? So it's the names of the things. It's just the like broccoli, cabbage, leeks, onions, shallots. It says that. It doesn't say the specific type of onion. It's just the broad thing. So this helps me with the date and the month part of it, right? And it goes all the way through the year for planting. Now I don't put harvesting in here. And do I have an answer as to why? Because I don't want dates telling me harvest stuff. I like to just watch the plant and the weather, and I tell the garden when I choose to harvest, not the calendar tells me. The garden tells me when to harvest, maybe is how I should say that. Bowtie Life says, I have every seed packet I have ever bought. I trust you on that for sure. Um, DCBs is doing some weather predictions. I think we may have an early fall spring this year. Adam says my first harvest of 2026 was broccoli. I waited too long for my cauliflower. Oh no. So the other thing I have is a notebook. So in 2022, I used, this is a small notebook. In 2021, I used a big notebook. There's different types. So what do I put in my notebooks? In this one, I was putting to-dos in the month. So what do I need to plant? Something I could look at harvesting, amending, that kind of schedule. I tried to keep track of not necessarily my feelings, but what I was observing. Like that was a while ago, right? In the beginner journey. This one, I started putting in my spring chart. So when things should be sown, whether indoors or outdoors, and the dates according to my zone, as well as in the fall. So like that was something important to keep. And then I would put seed notes. So what's the cayenne and how many do I want to start? Tomatoes, how many do I want to start? I used to draw out, this is back when I had raised beds in town. So I would draw like the fence and what would grow up the fence and what would grow inside the bed, what was north, what was south, that kind of thing. And there's a lot of this in here because, you know, gardening starts and then we don't do anything. The other stuff I do is I keep a piece of paper now that I garden out at the garden property. This is examples of beds or rows in the garden. So I would say it's 3 feet across and however long the garden is, depending on which one, the warm one or the cold shaded cropped one. I make a copy and then I can write in it as many times as I want, right? I do have a clipboard. We have a lovely clipboard here today, show off. It has some paint on it because I also have a clipboard system for my gardening. Now, the things I want to talk about are this pile, and this is, I don't even know if any of this needs to be on this clipboard for this year. We haven't set it up yet. And yes, I'll be honest, I have blank pages in my garden journal notebook, right? No, I saved the clipboard for last. There's totally a clipboard. So this one says garden on the top right here. And this is an example of another thing I do when I'm planting. So this was the rain garden. So I made a key at the bottom that said what the plant was. And I just made the abbreviations in the bubbles. And it was, you know, I have 3 plants. Where is it going to go to try and map it out? I keep a paper that reminds me about crop rotation order. Do I follow it? I'm going to say not really. I feel like there's personal opinions on crop rotation, you know, that goes year to year, not in the season. So if one year something's fruiting in that space, grow something like a legume in the following year, grow a leafy green the following year, grow a root the following year. I am trying to get more into just big polyculture. Everybody is from all of those families in one space the best I can. Now I do have companion planting notes, and this is based off of books that I have, and I've showed our gardening books on the channel. Gigi's garden, I put at least first harvest in journal to know what my true days to maturity was. That is great. I know a lot of people that really go by what's on the seed packet, and so they mark down this is when I should go look for harvesting it. And gardening is one of those things where you do it however you want. I love that we're getting feedback and ideas to try and just, how do you want to do this, right? Dusty Flat says, I find it handy to keep the planner next to my chair and write in the evening. I also like to write in the evening from my office, aka my bed. Oh, a bow tie even has a clipboard. I'm a clipboard person. I think I own at least 10 of them. I have gardening books, that's right. Okay, so on the companion notes, I have things like carrots and bunching onions, carrots, tomatoes, basil, carrots and sweet alyssum. cabbage with chamomile and sage or dill or hyssop, squash and nasturtiums, cucumbers and dill, just to try and help me, like, how do I want to plant things out? And then another chart that I keep is a square foot gardening guide. So that tells you per square foot how many of each plant can go in that, where it's going to have enough space to grow to maturity. So it's in alphabetical order. For Swiss chard, it says put 4 in 1 square foot. Carrots, I think, is 16. 9 to 16, depending on how you want your carrots. 1 cabbage per square foot. I was doing a lot of square foot gardening in town in the raised beds. I kind of don't know what I'm doing out at the garden property. We're going to be on year 3 now. So this is the garden properties. Each spot, what are the dimensions? So in total, which this has to change because the watermelon patch and one of the wildflower patches I think have to go this year. Last year it was 3,712 square feet if I added everything together, which isn't all food. Some of that is the rain garden, which it doesn't have food in it. And there's a wildflower rock garden that's not food, and then a north shed garden that's not food. So that's what I've been doing. I would call that pretty basic and beginner, right? Maybe I should show some pictures before we go on to, maybe we'll talk about medium next. Medium level. Carol says, yes, I like my calendar planners next to my chair, but they grow legs sometimes and move. Adam says, seed starting math equals I need 5 of said veggie, so I'm going to start 10 just in case. I have 20 veggie starts in spring that need a home. I feel the same way. Let's say I want to have 2, so I'll plant 6, and, you know, they all make it sometimes, and you have 6. Now I am lucky that I have enough space to kind of put it wherever I want. I can plug it in. Now, people can be encouraged to share. You know, one of the themes we're going to go for this season for the channel is grow, feed, and share, whatever that looks like for you. If you've missed my explanation on that, there is a live stream talking about it and all the different ways and what that means. Miss Sharon says, pro tip, do not pay $50 for a nice planner. You will never use it because you don't want to mess it up because it's too pretty, right? Anybody else been there before? Dusty Flat says, great idea to put in the harvest date. I didn't realize cauliflower was 45 days until I was reviewing the seed packet and had to run out and harvest because they were ready. Eddie says, I am probably the most unorganized gardener here. I never mark my plants. I just plant and harvest at random. I grew gardens in town with small children, so nothing had a label because it wouldn't stay there. They're older now. They leave labels alone. I learned by just waiting and going, oh, that's what that is, right? Because at some point you figure it out. And it really helped my brain understand what the plant was by identifying it in the hard way versus having a label on it constantly. Radio Jonesy says, well, I just opened my email and look what I found. Hey, do you have a notebook, Radio Jonesy, for your garden? We'd love to hear about it. Dusty says, I'm trying to perfect and shorten notes so they are easy to spot. I do record weather events frequently and has explained why something went wrong. And that's why you get the cheap annual planner, says Dusty. Brooke Trout, the live stream that didn't happen, that one was not the explanation of grow, feed, share. That one is just the one that didn't happen. Good evening. We are going over garden planners and journals. If you are someone who does that, I want to hear all about it. What's been working for you? What are your aspirations for this year? Do you have something purchased? Carol says, I just remembered I got a new calendar that has moon phases and I have to find it. Just got it on sale at Whole Paycheck. Dusty would like to add when to succession plant things like salad fixings. Yes. So in my calendar, the things that you do want to plant every 2 weeks, I have it plugged in. So the way I have it plugged in is I shoot for the 1st and the 15th of the month. So I write during those weeks goals for this should be planted, right? What I want to do this year is write down when I actually did plant it, because I have the blueprint, right? But I want to know, when did I actually plant it? Serena says, I have Cozy Calendar planning app, and last year I put in the harvest date, but when I went out there, it was nothing to harvest, just leaves, blooms, and buds. That's the tricky thing about keeping track of that. I was trying to see if that was an emergency or not. Kevin says, hey Kevin, one of the most important things you should be logging week by week is soil temps in the spring. These are the magic numbers. Soil temps are easily taken with a $10 meat thermometer. That is right. And you want to have the soil temps in your gardens, not just online, because you can Google soil temps near me, and some kind of agriculture website is going to show what a soil temp is within 100 miles of you. Now, I have spaces that are going to melt right away when we hit that time. And those soil temps are going to be way different than the garden that is buried in snow because it drifts and it's not in full sun, right? I plant by soil temps, absolutely. Not by air temperature, not by Google's frost date. It's great to have the ballpark of when to ask it, to like, oh, I should be looking around this time, watching the weather, and then taking those soil temps. I plant cold crops if the soil is 50, 55 degrees, and I don't plant warm crops till the soil is 65 degrees. Dusty would also like to add fertilizing into the journaling, as do I. I need to actually do it, and I actually need to document it. I would like to put the dates and what I used, right? Radio Jonesy says, no notebook, just buying the vegetables from the farmer's gate lately, and they taste amazing. Yeah, because you have had a wallaby attack. Oh, no worries, Adam. They're there for whenever. Whenever. Is your soil always 75 degrees, Bowtie? Do you have data to back that statement up? Okay, I am going to go into the mid-range intentional grower where gardening gets a little bit more fun because the patterns start showing up when you're doing your journaling. So when we go over those same basic concepts, we're adding another layer to them. So you're light, having more detail. Which beds warm up first in the spring? Where does the shade change through the season? I know some of you talk about, oh, well, this bed actually starts seeing shade way quicker in the afternoon, starting in September, right? What month? What bed? Bowtie Life has labels for stuff like, I don't know, tier 2, bed B. I'm not actually sure if that's correct, but zonage, like every space you can refer to it probably on a bird's eye blueprint, that kind of thing. How do you organize your gardens? And then mark the light is what I'm trying to get at. The temps and timing. So again, we're going to harp on this. The soil temp at planting. You can actually track when did you actually harvest that thing, right? We talked about that already. Did you notice a plant going to bolt that you didn't want to? So marking that down, the temperature of outside when that happened, the date, because you'll have the date you planted it, what it is, and then this situation. You should be putting your plants and varieties in there. And we have learned from people like Robin Gardens how amazing it is to know the specific name of the variety of the tomato, for example, because flavor matters, how it handles pest pressure and disease matter, how it handles extra rain bursts, right? The seed source can matter for reordering. So that's why some people just keep that seed packet. I am not that person. I wreck that thing. I tear it up, it gets crumbled, it gets wet, it's in my pocket, it's in my shoe. I don't even know. Like, I can't keep a seed packet. So I have to just make a master chart or and keep receipts. Have you ever grown something amazing and forgot the variety? Tell me your honest answer, okay? You should also be tracking your soil. when we're in this more mid-level of garden journaling. So you can keep track of things like, what did you add? Were you adding compost? What were your mulch that you used that year? Because that has changed for me over the years. I am using different mulching methods, and that's something that I should be journaling. Were you adding alfalfa pellets? Right? How is your drainage? Did you notice that a space in your garden was flooding more or drying out more? And of course, something that I really want to track better is pests and disease, like the squash vine borer. I want to track, when did it show up? When did I first see that thing flying around? Not when it first attacked a plant. When did I see it lollygagging around? Okay. When, how bad was it? What plant was it on? Now, the cost options for mid-range, again, that dedicated notebook. You could also up it with a binder with dividers. You could purchase on Etsy or somewhere a printable planner or papers to then put in a binder. Bullet journaling, I used to hear a lot about. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I do have an example of what bullet journaling could look like when we get to that part of the presentation. Basic planner books. I have an agenda that I didn't bring to the table here today. I keep track of major life things like birthdays. I keep track of all of our homeschool data. And I was keeping track of gardening things in there too, because it was literally, like we said, you're sitting in your office at the end of the day going over what happened. It was in there. It was safe. I could move it to another place later. I want to just incorporate having the journal in the pile, right? There's also simple apps that could help you do this type of thing. And of course, if you are a spreadsheet person, more power to you. I have no examples of those. I don't know anything about them. I took classes at some point, but I don't use it every day. Mid-range isn't about price. It's really about that consistency of keeping up with doing this. Now, I do want to say we are so close to 1,500 gardeners, so if you're growing with me this year, hit the like and subscribe, please. Now, before I move into advanced systems, I do want to look at some pictures and go back in the chat to make sure I haven't missed any good stuff. So, hold on. Bowtie says, no, I do not. Just bragging. I do plant based on soil temps, a la Scott, Gardener Scottology. I'm pretty sure I have a link to his video about garden planners and journals if you want to hear his opinion. He has all kinds of tips for what to do in garden planners and journals. Dusty says to Robin, yes, always have extra seedlings rolling to fill in bare spots. Good idea. Fertilizer schedule from Robin. That's what Sundays are for. We call it lotions and potions. Oh, I wish I could just do that. I wish I could pick a day and that's the day. Eddie says, the one thing I obsess over is my soil. I never miss a chance to add organic material. Chopping and dropping. Carol says, most info online and especially on seed packets for us down here is bonkers. Let's just say it. It's off. It's based on North Florida and the rest of the world, not the tropics. Dusty Flat says the other thing about maturity date, I believe, is from transplant date, not including germination time and etc. I think it depends on the seed packet company. Is there a general answer to this? Anybody in the chat? I don't know off the top of my head because, like I said, I do not mark down in 45 days this is going to be ready. I look at it because I can't grow stuff. Like if it needs 150 days, 110 days, that's really tricky for me. If I want something quick, I'm like, oh, well, I'll take, 60 days over 80 days. That's when I'm looking at days to maturity. Radio Jonesy says, our yard and gardens are very dry with this hot weather. Yeah, you said it was 80 degrees Fahrenheit in Tasmania you must not have rain anymore because you were getting rain every day, it seemed like. Serena Norell, we're having a weird winter too. She's saying it's more like fall or spring than winter. Yes, but it's going to change in a few days on the 11th to 12th of January. It is weird. We're going to hit 40 degrees. Normally it's like negative 30 degrees. It's very bizarre. Bowtie says everything under the Great American Sycamore is in shade. The rest of the property is all sun. Dusty says then there is knowing when to switch from high nitrogen to more phosphorus or to completely stop fertilizing. We hear about this with onions. Around here, we grow long day onions. You want to feed them a lot of nitrogen in the beginning to grow the leaves. Every leaf is a layer in the onion. Once the summer solstice hits, it changes daylight hours. It triggers the plant to make the bulb. You want to stop feeding it nitrogen. There's other plants that I'm sure have that example as far as their development. Once they're in a certain phase of their development, we switch the food. If you're that kind of gardener, right? Dusty Flat says, I keep all the empty seed packets in a box for each year, and it helps if I need to know a variety. I am not that person. Now that I have a YouTube channel, I am able to go back and watch my seed haul videos where I show the packets to everybody, which we have one coming up. I do have an order getting shipped at some point, probably in 2 weeks. Bowtie is also a video journal person. If he can't remember what something is, he's able to go through the videos somehow easily. Llama says, I use a 3x5 spiral notebook and track daily high and low temps. What is forecasted for the day? The wind is such a good one. We've had a lot of wind out at the garden this last year. How much rain or snow I also love keeping track of. I love getting like an inch of rain a week. That makes me happy. Specifics on what you've planted, first of the season, etc. Love that. Oh, Dusty wrote down the date for that squash vine borer, which is what SVB is. Ecology Today says bullet journals are showing up at dollar stores. Okay, so they must still be a thing. Anastasia says, Hi, my husband and I were surprised how many carrots and radishes we had in our garden. It's great when every seed you plant produces a food, right? Bowtie says, bullet journaling. I'm not sure my neighbors would appreciate me changing from loofah to bullets. Badoomch. I have sound effect buttons, but I don't have them handy like other people do, like Radio Jonesy. Dusty Flat says, I used to sit at a computer all day, was very good at Excel, but now I can't see doing it for gardening because it feels like work. Yeah, Adam, did you say soil microbiology, Jay? Oh, we have a pro tip here. Next Monday, Gardener Scott live show will be about soil. Thanks, Jay Dixon, for that. Heads up, make sure you are subscribed if you want to hit and go and be in that live stream or catch his replay. It's going to be 70 tomorrow for Miss Sharon. Oh, Gigi's Garden is a spreadsheet geek when it comes to harvest, tracking weight. Oh, and by variety. I need to get a scale system. I want to weigh my harvest. Absolutely. I want to say, I grew this many cucumber pounds, this many pounds of tomatoes. Yes. Dusty says, just search DTM starts at sowing date if direct sown and from transplant date if started inside. Days to maturity. Okay, just search days to maturity starts at the sowing date if direct sown and from transplant date if you've started it inside and then hardened it off and put it in the ground. Okay. Eddie is sharing his weather. We're supposed to hit 40 in about a week. 2. That'll be a big change from the upper 60s. Serena says the weird weather is making me wonder when the last frost date will really be. Yes, it is. The thaw, we're in a thaw right now, and I know we're going to get a winter blast. I know this isn't spring. I still feel weird about it. It's just... Dusty says I write all the favorites in the back page of an annual planner and notes on what failed. It's just beach weather over there. Robin Garden says videos on my channel help me ID the drying seed because Mizuna and arugula look alike. Bowtie uses the transcript and keywords using filmmot.com to quickly find and track down what video has the thing in that he's looking for. It makes it very easy. I like that. Gigi's Garden says, I think I need a backyard weather station to track weather. That is on the advanced garden planning list that we have coming up, and we can possibly look at a few. Okay, so I'm at the bottom of the chat. So let's look at some pictures instead of me for a little bit, and then we'll come back into the advanced part of the show. So this is showing somebody's garden, okay? And the reason I'm showing that is because we're going to go into their garden planner next. So there's their layout. And then you can see here, they've drawn the beds and they've made a key at the bottom with fun coloring, artistic pictures of where the things will be planted. It looks like the beds are numbered. 1, 3 is the circle one in the middle, 2 is over here. This is a companion kitchen garden for this person. So if you are wanting to take this time, that is one way to do your journaling. Having that blueprint, having that map is very helpful. Now this is in the bullet journal category of things. Bowtie says that looks AI. There is a link in the description to her blog, and it shows all of her drawings. So I don't know what year it was put up on the blog, but you can look. Okay, Key has tasks, notes, important deadlines, completed, canceled, a bunch of abbreviations, an index. So when we're flipping through this bullet journal, it looks a little funky to other people, but it might make sense to the person that made this. So it's going over the balcony herbs. It says basil, talking about when to sow it. There's some kind of inches and measurements and sun, if it needs full sun or partial shade. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Greens, everybody organizes their brain differently. Here is their version of the seed starting chart. Mine, I just write out the date. This is more of a map. So at the top, it's February, March, April, May, June, keep going. And then it's the plant. And then each month when that plant needs to be planted, you can do this with digital apps too, which is more in the advanced part of gardening. This has each month and tasks. So sowing seeds specifically like kale and mulching and pruning. I'm not sure what this other thing with dots and lines is. I feel like that's bullet journal world. And then this one is your basic, I have a row of onions and a row of potatoes, right? Here's a kid's garden. I have a row of peas, and then she's probably going to put pole beans in it, snap peas, cow peas, strawberries, asparagus. We've seen these in the larger gardens with big crops, right? Now you can go over to Etsy and you can go and look at digital downloads. You can buy calendars and books. Like this is $30. This is almost $30. This digital download is 99 cents, but this one is almost $5. Now, this one says it has 75 pages included in this download. I don't do these for many reasons. I don't want someone to tell me how big to write. So like how these all have spaces pre-printed and grids and lines. Maybe I wanted to write bigger than that. So I'm not a fan of these. I'm not a fan of digital downloads in general. I'm not a fan of having to print stuff. I'd rather buy a book. So I'm not that kind of person. I'm going to head into the chat to see what we're talking about, and then I will share the more advanced way of thinking about garden planning, what you could be doing. And I have a couple more journals, tools, apps that I could share on the screen. We are going to have some rain and then snow, which is the way it goes. Dusty Flat says, I don't have time for better home and garden journaling. I hear you. I'm lucky if I can read it, and that's what counts. That's what counts, yes, is we're going to go over a question and answer round at the end of this show, and it really asks yourself how you want to lay it out, right? Like, so you actually use the thing. Carol says, I just plant whatever makes it. Once I get things more in place, maybe there can be more organizing and videos. Videos are good enough. Doodles do help. Keeping the doodles in one place is tricky though for some people, like Carol's saying. Ecology Today says tracker tags for journals. I have seen where people take the plant tag and they put it in the back of the journal in like a sleeve plastic. I'm sure you could even use the contact paper method. Llama Llama says, my husband surprised me today and said we could over double the size of the garden. That's an additional 56 by 42. I'm so excited. That is fantastic to hear. Hold on. Dusty Flat says, have you ever looked at your journal and said, what? Yeah. Who wrote that and what is it? I can't take my journal to the garden because it would just get wet and dirty. There is a link in the description, I'm pretty sure is where I put it. No, maybe it's in the presentation. There's like a waterproof journal thing, but I'm not convinced. Ecology Today says the tracker tags, i.e. electronics, were for people who lose their garden journals. Yeah, I did not include a whole lot of AI tech stuff. That's a whole nother section I could have added to this conversation. So if we're going into like you're an advanced garden planner, tracker, journaler, these are good systems. It's very long term. It's good references. It's where you stop thinking in seasons and start thinking in systems. So you're going to go into your journal and mark down things like microclimates, frost pockets, wind tunnels, heat traps. These can explain why one bed thrives and another struggles depending on what you chose for crops to put in that, right? The soil biology and health are things that you can track. Trends over time. How does it feel? Maybe you're going to do a test where you take a chunk and you put it in a jar with water and you see how much settles and what's in the middle and what's at the bottom. Maybe you're doing soil testing and you're including that in your notes. What's improving, what's declining. Of course, adding crop rotation and systems. So what was in the bed the previous year, what you're putting in it the next year, keeping track of annuals and perennials, heavy feeders versus light feeders. That was more on the keeping track of your fertilizer schedule. You can also add your year-to-year weather. Actually getting nitty-gritty with it, drought years, flood years, was there wildfire smoke, how long, how often. Your journal becomes a climate record, you know, outcomes. So maybe you want to measure weight or calories, storage ability, how much time. Some people want to know how much time it takes them in the garden. So you could have a clock in and clock out paper when you were doing gardening. Advanced journals aren't about plants, they're about understanding your land. So cost options for advanced thinkers on garden and planning. High-end planners, I don't know which ones they are, but I'm sure they're out there. You know, we were talking in the chat about $50 ones that have everything and that are said to be able to help you. Custom journals, digital dashboards, mapping software, weather stations was something that came up. I'm going to list a few later on in the show. Soil testing subscriptions or just doing soil testing in general does cost money. Now, luxury tools don't make you better. They make good habits easier. Before we do jump into the next part, I want to pause for a minute and talk about how this channel stays alive and growing. So I am not backed by any type of sponsor or company. We are supported directly by you. Your likes, your shares, your comments are wonderful, bringing over your gardener friends. Now we do have memberships. They start at $1, and the dollar goes towards many things. It helps me buy seeds to feed my family, legitly, okay? That's what we use it for. We can invest in tools like getting a hydroponic system for the kitchen for the winter. It is in our wish list. We can order more books to research and talk about on the channel. We do have a book review coming up in February, and I have another book ordered that comes in March. That probably won't be here till April for the review part of it though, but I'm gonna do my best to include extra content and discussions around the books for our members. You also get update videos on the indoor plants that we have growing currently. There is a video in there on why I even have this channel in the first place. Sometimes I include printables. It's a place to share photos. It's a priority space to ask questions. The other way that is pretty simple to help support the channel, especially if you like tangible things, is our merch store, which are linked in the description. Stickers for seed bins, puzzles for winter nights. We have shirts. Now, start where you are, okay? Track what you can maintain. Upgrade only when your needs grow. So one messy notebook used is better than 5 planners untouched, right? So now that we've kind of leveled out what these little categories of what kind of garden planner are you basic? Are you mid-range? Are you advanced? Do you want to be a different type? Do you want to just start somewhere, right? So we've looked at some examples. I'm going to head into the chat before I go into this next section here. I see we have a new member sprouting up. I'm going to get to it. Gigi's Garden, you take a pick of seed packets before trashing them. That's why I like the videos, for sure. Let's see if I missed anything above that. Dusty says, I did take a notebook out and walk through tomato rows to take notes on each. That can be the overflow data or rip it out and put it in a planner. That's why I have that clipboard, because I'll take notes on paper and it didn't end up in the notebook, you know. Okay, if you are a member, throw out your emojis. Gonna get to the new member. Here it is. Serena Norell, you've become a new member, which is fantastic. What that means for everybody is we get to have a fun little story time. I always read a story when we have new members sprouting up, and you heard my spiel on what you get as a member. So, story. Since it's January, we'll need some kind of new year garden story, right? At exactly midnight, when the old year exhaled and the new one drew its first breath, the garden clock chimed once and then stopped. Snow rested quietly on the beds, the soil frozen solid. Nothing should have moved, and yet beneath the pear tree, the ground pulsed softly like a heartbeat walking after a long sleep. Shawnee stepped outside just as the final echo of fireworks faded. The air smelled clean, sharp, and new, and then she saw it. A tiny crack in the soil, glowing faint gold, as if a star had fallen and buried itself in there. From the crack rose a single seed hovering just above the earth. It spun slowly, catching the light of the moon. Etched into its shell were tiny numbers, years, dates, seasons, overlapping and fading into one another. A whisper rose from the ground, not loud but certain. What you plant now decides what you carry forward. The seed drifted gently back into the soil. The glow vanished. The clock began ticking again. In the morning, the garden looked unchanged. Snow, stillness, silence. But beneath the surface, something had been planted, not just in the soil, but in time itself. Someone used initials for seed saving 1 year. Bad idea. That was Robin talking to Dusty. Yes, thank you for joining the channel, Serena. I hope you heard our story. Llama Llama says, if you have the money, that's awesome for me. If I'm spending any more than $5 on a journal a year, then I'd be looking at it like that could have been, seed money. I hear you. I hear you entirely. Gigi's Garden says, one of the things I like about spreadsheets is that I can make them fit what I want to track rather than forms and apps, then put borders around what I can do. I think spreadsheets work really good too if you're trying to do the budget of the garden, like you're trying to put all the input costs and math it out. I think that helps too. Dusty says, I write down how tomatoes are doing, fruit count, disease growth, habit. Robin says to Jay, I use birthday cards. Don't put too many in one card. It's worked well. For mailing seeds is what you're talking about. Thank you for helping out Jay with Serena. Just in case it's not transcribing right. Robin did try to mail some pelleted seed and they turned to dust, sending them over the big pond. Dave Knight. Hi, everyone. I'm old school. I watch native plants and generational knowledge when planting now in my 38th year on this land. So can you give us some examples of that, Dave? Like when the bush blooms, blossoms of this plant, then it's time for the soil to be worked. Like, do you have anything you can share? When you see this bird, then you know it's time to plant this thing. Does any of that work for you? Woof and Snort, you're back for another show. We have gone over a lot of information. I have a couple more things to share on the screen and a Q&A to go over before we wrap it up. Adam says, here in the Pacific Northwest, well, the West Coast in general, it's tricky keeping a journal because of El Nino and El Nina. Our weather patterns change every 3 to 4 years. Dry to wet, cold to warm. I think that's the perfect reason to keep a journal. You're looking for patterns. You're just keeping track of what grew well during that time. Maybe you have certain varieties that you should grow when you're in El Nino versus El Nina. Gigi's Garden is saying to Robin, guilty of using the I will remember method for seed saving and it didn't work well. Dusty says, that's what I was wondering. Some seed could turn to dust, Robin. Robin says, budget? Nah, I might take the fun out of it, right? I don't want to see the numbers looking at me. Dusty says it's called phenology when you plant peas when forsythia bloom, etc. But this weather is changing that. Yeah, like false blooming too early. Okay. So some examples of planters, I was going to say planters for a second, that apparently are fantastic if you want to spend the money is the Right and Rain planner. We talked about that one. It's supposed to be weatherproof. I don't know how much I believe in that. The Family Garden Planner I can share though. And then Digital Notion Garden Dashboard is it's a digital thing. So the Family Garden Planner, I've never held in my hands, but it's by somebody most of us probably know. Her name is Melissa K. Norris. So what happens in the planner, let's see here. She's talking about teaching you your garden as you're planning it, if that makes sense. So gardening zones, how much to plant, crop rotation. Here's a space to put the month, the garden task, the projects, the notes, and there is an expenses tracker. Then there's, you can break it down by time on the day. Does it show any more examples? It doesn't. So she's been known to create really good garden preservation books, which I don't have an example of, but I heard it was a really good tutorial book on proper, safe canning, how to grow enough to can it. Like I said, I've never held her planner for gardening, but I hear it's one that would be worth it if you're looking for something to guide you. I like the notebook because I can write as big or small as I want. Mapping, design software, those are other things that I would throw into the more advanced if you want to spend money category. Some of these might be free. Gardenia, Grow Veg Garden Planner, Seedtime, I can show an example of, and Veg Plotter are all well-known places where you can create an account and try and map out your garden online. So for Seedtime, the free account lets you build a calendar. So right here it says January, February, March, April, May down this side right on the left. And there is a tomato and it knows where I'm at as far as zone. So when I put in the type of tomato I wanted to grow, it said, well, based on where you live, you can start the seed indoor in March. And then in May, you can prepare the bed and you can transplant it and then weed it and then harvest it at the end of July and in August and in September and October. So you would spend the time to type in all of the seed packets into the app, which I hate doing, for it to build out the schedule, which I already can do on my notebook. If you pay for Seedtime, then you can get the blueprint thing where it's like, I have this bed here and this bed here and this one here. What can I plant in it? I would rather do it on a notebook than on a computer, but maybe you would love that kind of thing. Another thing for advanced levels is definitely your weather stations. You know, ambient weather is one you can buy, AccuRite is another one, and then Tempest is another system. So what Tempest looks like is a device that you put out in your garden, and there's instructions on how to do that. And it connects to your phone and it can track wind. I think it's a great tool. You can look at that in your own time and decide things for that. So soil testing costs money, right? So you can use Build a Soil test. Like the website is Build a Soil. I don't remember if I have links to these or not in the description. MySoilTesting.com has kits. Redmond Agriculture Do-It-Yourself Soil Test Kit is another place, like Redmond Salt. They sell a soil test kit now. And then, of course, using your university and extension lab soil directions. Now, before I get into top questions and answers, I'm going to head back in the chat because it's on a separate tab here and see what we're doing. Dusty says, I was reading comments on Weather Channel and there are peaches and cherries in bloom are starting in North Carolina. Carol says to Adam, tell us about that Nina and Nino for real. No rain this year, hardly at all. Kevin says, an excellent way to log rainfall is through an app called Raindrop. You can drop a pin, track several locations at once. App updates about every 5 minutes, logs daily, monthly, yearly, and less than or greater than average. Love that tip. Thank you, Kevin. It's also fun to talk to gardeners all over the world to hear about what's happening. Carol says, that was new. The ad started talking over you before it showed itself. Eddie says, Melissa K. Norris is a wealth of knowledge. I've learned so much from her. I sometimes take her live courses she offers online. I used to listen to her often. I used to watch her channel often. I haven't as much in the last couple of years, to be honest. But she knows what she's talking about, you know? Ecology Today says, Shawnee Grows, are the courses that you're taking free? Yes, free. For residents only? Oh, I can send you the links and see if it lets you sign up. If you want, if that helps figure that part out. Like, I had to give them my name and my email address. I think that's it. I didn't have to prove I lived in Minnesota. So I can send that to you. Robin says, harvests rarely happen on plans, so that would all go to the double toothpicks in your garden. HE double toothpicks? Oh, you say toothpicks? Are you for real? Not hockey sticks? Carol says Melissa K. Norris is incredible. Was around doing a show level quality vids back when I started watching YouTube, 2018, 2019. Yeah. Serena says, after taking out what Bowtie Dave wanted, I took the rest of the seeds to a food pantry volunteer who works in my church food pantry. He will be in charge of seed distribution. I love it. Dusty says, I was pursuing through tomato varieties, then pulled out all the seeds. How could I possibly buy another variety? I just ordered a tomato variety yesterday. So I'm going to have to take somebody out of the list to put this one in. Dave Knight says, the white oak in my yard loses its leaves on the spring. It is time to plant outside. Yeah, like that. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Dave, for sharing that. If anyone else has any of those little things in their locale, let's share it. That's fun. I think there's one somewhere in my land, but I don't remember what it would be right now. Diva in the Dirt says, hello, hello, sitting in the bushes. I hope the bushes don't have wasps in them. How do you say this one? I want to say we Terry, but wet Ari, I'm not sure which way it goes. Hey, blessings. We're towards the end of the show. I am going to go over a Q&A quickly. Woof and Snort did get the ambient weather, and it's 6 years old. Tried and true. I like that. You're over in the desert. Diva is seeing lots of buds coming outside, which means things. Yeah, you know, you can just pretend, eh? No. How do we talk in Minnesota? We don't say eh. I don't know. I live here. Dusty Flat says, well, I guess I justify all my seed varieties and search for the perfect for my garden. That's what I'm on the hunt for, is who wants to grow here? No problem. I want those varieties every year. I have plenty of years to figure this out. We Terry Homestead. Thank you. I'm a gardener in Minnesota, trying to just talk about gardening when we're under a blanket of snow, but it's actually warm out and weird. The weather's crazy. We do educational gardening live streams mostly. The wasps are sleeping, everybody. Diva's safe. Okay, so let's go over some top questions and answers. Should I organize my garden journal alphabetically or by planting season? Does anybody have a preference on this? So I'm a big fan of alphabetical for reference purposes. So if I'm like, I want to know what carrots I planted because I plant ones for spring, ones for fall storage, ones for juicing. I want to go to carrots and go, okay, this is the varieties and this is when I planted it. Or if I want to go into a squash variety and go, well, this one got attacked by the squash vine borer, I can go into squash, find the winter squash that I'm looking for, and mark it and the date. I feel like the season, is that my schedule? Is that I plant this every 2 weeks? I plant this starting in this month at this date. If you plant by season, organize by season. If you look things up later, use an index or tags. Seasons is better for planning. So like there's the planning section of your binder or your notebook, your brain. The alphabetical is better for those references. You can absolutely mix both, do both, right? Does anybody have any answers to that? Eddie has something about when the dandelions put out their flowers, it's time to plant the warm crops. There you go. When their flowers turn to seed, it's time to plant hot weather things like the cowpeas and sweet potatoes. Dusty says, no drama queen, veg or fruit here. Never liked soap operas either. I don't like soap operas. No. My name came from, oh, that's not a soap opera, I guess. Never, maybe it is. Yeah, that was a soap opera. Anyways, off track. Dusty says, I just turn to the month I originally recorded planting and add notes. So I'm worried that I'm going to run out of space. So I think what I'm going to do this year is keep the planting calendar and then have my master list of varieties and leave space to track when it was planted, when I saw disease, when I saw a pest, when I harvest it. And I do want to measure things. I want to weigh things this year. So I kind of want that with the thing. Now, does each thing need one whole page? No. How am I going to figure out the spacing thing? I don't know. Alphabetical, says Anastasia. Llama Llama is talking to Carol about looking up the concrete sequential personality. Now I'm laughing as I'm writing out my to plant list with spacing and days to harvest for max planning. I can't unsee it. Ooh, Wolf and Snort says if you use Excel, you can use a slicer and get any view you want with a push of a button. We were talking about if you're a spreadsheet person or not when doing your garden planning and journaling. Gigi's Garden says I just keep it simple, chronological. You know, this is what I planted in spring, this is what I planted in summer, this was fall. Adam says definitely by season and then still have alphabetically for reference. Okay, next question. How often do I actually need to write in my garden journal? You don't need to journal daily. It's not a requirement. There's no test at the end. You journal when something changes. Planting day, big weather events, your first harvest, all the problems we've been mentioning. That's when you should journal something, right? Now, I think this one's obvious. Is a digital garden planner better than a paper one? The best system is one that you are going to reach for. Paper can be slower, but you're more observant. How many of us know that if we write it down, we remember it better versus this, right? Digital is searchable, scalable, a hybrid works well. You know, is taking a picture considered digital? How you feel about that? Do I need a separate journal for each year? Now that's what I was doing because the calendar changes. So I get a different calendar every year. I'm looking at my pile down here that I showed earlier. I get a different notebook every year. Now the clipboard is the same clipboard. Like I said, I need to clean that thing out. Your garden is one long story, not chapters you close too fast. One journal with yearly sections, a binder with tabs, color-coded by years. All that stuff works perfectly. Here's the other thing that I have in my head. I need to make a master blueprint of all the perennials on the land, and I need to be able to have my kids find the thing. I want them to see what has been planted on this land and what worked, right? What grew best during a drought year? What grew best during a heavy rain year or a wind year? I want someone else to be able to look at this thing and go, oh, I could pick up where they left off, right? Is that too much to ask for? Do garden planners really make you a better gardener? Planners don't make you better, but patterns do. Making observations, being aware. Journals help you see cause and effect. Repeat the wins and avoid repeating failures. Heading back into the chat before we wrap up the show. Where did I leave off? Okay, yep, that's Adam, yep. Ecology Today, Jay Dixon is announcing that she will be over at the Urban Gardener live streams Saturday and Sunday. There's the link. She's running it temporarily. I think this is the last weekend. Maybe not. Maybe there's 2 more weekends. Don't quote me. Maybe there's 2 more weekends. Come on over there. We hang out. Bowtie says, journal when I am feeling it. Andrew, good evening, everyone. Yay, warm, negative 38 Fahrenheit. Now, not negative 44. Good to see you, Andrew. Dusty Flat says, I'm glad I found that cheap annual planner because there is note room with each month and for each week. Yeah, having space. Radio Jonesy says, I keep YouTube numbers every day, checking on what works and what doesn't in my journal. I guess it's similar. It does. That's similar. Anastasia says, paper notes are a big thing in my household. Good deal. Dusty says, I usually have nothing written in November until this last long fall. March through July are jammed with notes. Yes. Dana Let's Prep says, hey, excellent information to keep record of, especially if you plan to rotate your crops. Happy New Year. Good to see you, Dana. Yes, Monday, Gardener Scott will be talking about soil. Woof and Snort says, our yard will be boring. We have like 5 plants and trees that can survive. Even the cactus get the sunburn. There's lots of talk about greening up deserts. Now, this was not in America, it was elsewhere, but it's about observing and changing so plants can live. Adam says, pen and pencil to paper is proven to retain memory. Also, you don't have to scroll through files to find the one thing that you're looking for that happened 2 or 3 years ago. Gigi's Garden says, thanks for the conversation tonight. Now I can't wait to get some seeds for transplants going. We will share that as we go. When we get some seed hauls in, when we get into starting seeds and winter sowing, we're going to have all kinds of live streams talking about that. Andrew is talking about snowdrifts. It's only one more weekend? Okay. Bowtie, thanks. Jay says, next weekend is the last weekend that the casual hosting will happen at the Urban Gardener. The big announcements with Enoch about the future shows start on... there's going to be an announcement on the Sunday show in the last 30 minutes about all the stuff, future shows coming up. Okay. Okay. We have talked about that too, Woof and Snort. It's a whole nother level of, we could share that. We could do a members only getting into that, right? Eddie says, once again, Shawnee Grows has proven my point. Lots of content creators tell you how. Shawnee tells you why. I really love hearing that, Eddie. Thank you so much for sticking around and supporting the channel, and appreciate the work that I put into things. Bowtie says, I have kept a monthly log of everything in the garden for almost 4 years now. Is this the button? Yeah. So, Dusty says to Adam, yes, I can find things pretty easy from past notes once I get in the right year. Many hours of video, Woof and Snort, I hear ya. Okay. Now, if you've learned something new, please share it with another gardener. The more of us restoring the ground beneath our feet, the cleaner our food and water become for everyone. Thanks for gathering around. Keep creating, keep experimenting, and keep growing every day in every way. If you want to see the systems behind what I talk about here, I show my garden on the channel. They're under the playlist called Garden Tours. There is a link in the description. You can see what I actually grow. And of course, you can check out our most viewed live streams, Gardening Won't Save You, What is Vermiculture, and Surviving the Hunger Gap. I will see you on the next show. I will leave you with our outro, and I'll be in the chat. So here we go.
Yeah, started today. Little tips for beginners go a long, long way. Survival gardens, rising companion, roots tight. Regenerative soil, keep the future in sight. Build soil in layers, let the microbes feed. Save seed for the kids, that's the garden's creed. Food webs dancing in the dark below. Eat from the land, let the good life grow. Eat what you eat what you grow. Learn as you grow, let the rhythm flow. Grow every day, eat what you grow. This is how we garden for a brighter day. What you eat what you grow. Learn as you grow, let the rhythm flow. Grow every day, eat what you grow. This is how we garden for a brighter day. This is how we garden for a brighter day. Food forests rise and grocery rows too. Rain garden soaking up that sky blue. Pollinator patches keep the heartbeat strong. Edible landscape singing all season long. What you eat what you grow. Let's learn as you grow, let the rhythm flow. eat what you grow. Let's learn as you grow, let the rhythm flow. Grow every day, eat what you grow. This is how we garden for a brighter day.